The lecture hall was full of strange creatures from across the galaxy. Some had fur, some had scales, and some looked like walking crystals. They all sat in rows, waiting for their teacher to speak. The room smelled different than a human classroom, wood. It was a mix of metal, ozone, and things that had no name on Earth. Professor Keth Prime stood at the front of the room. His body was made of clear crystal that changed colors when he moved or thought. Right now, he was a pale blue color, which meant he was thinking hard about something. He was old, even for his kind, and had taught at the Galactic Military Academy for over 200 years. Today we will talk about humans, the professor said. His voice sounded like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. We will study how they fight wars and why they make the choices they do. A young student in the third row made a clicking sound. This was Zix 4471, and he belonged to a race called the Krillians. His body looked like a giant bug, but he was very smart. His shell was bright green, which showed he was excited about something. Professor Keth Prime, Zix said, why do we need to study humans at all? Everyone knows they are weak. They never fight real wars. They just talk and talk until the other side gets bored and goes away. Many other students made sounds of agreement. Some clicked, some buzzed, and some made low humming noises. A student from the Rigel system spoke up next. Zix is right, she said. Her name was Mora 6, and she had purple skin and 4 arms. Humans joined our Federation only 50 years ago. In all that time, they have never started a single war. They always run away from fights. Another student, this one looking like a walking tree, added his thoughts. My people have traded with humans for 20 years. They are always polite and kind. But when there is trouble, they hide behind their diplomats and lawyers. They are too scared to fight like real warriors. Professor Keth Prime listened to all of this. His crystal body slowly changed from blue to orange, which meant he was amused. He had heard these same words from students for many years now. So you all think humans are cowards? The professor asked. Yes, many students called out together. They must be, said Zix. Look at the facts. When the Mordak Empire attacked human trade ships, what did the humans do? They sent negotiators. When the stellar pirates raided human colonies, the humans offered to pay them to stop. And when the Vorthak Empire threatened human space, the humans tried to make peace treaties. That sounds like weakness to me, agreed Mora 6. Professor Keth Prime walked to his desk and touched a control panel. The lights in the room dimmed and a large holographic display appeared in the air above the students. It showed a map of the galaxy with different colored areas marking the territories of various alien races. Tell me, the professor said, what do you know about the Vorthak Empire? The students looked at each other. Finally, a student from the back raised a tentacle. His name was Quinn Delta, and he was from a water world far from Earth. The Vorthak Empire used to control 47 star systems, Quinn Delta said. They were warriors who conquered everyone they met. But about 25 years ago, their empire just disappeared overnight. Nobody knows what happened to them. That is correct, Professor Keth Prime said. And when did this happen? Zix thought for a moment. It was right after they had some kind of conflict with the humans, but that cannot mean anything. Humans could never defeat the Vorthak. They must have had some kind of disease or internal war that destroyed them. Ah, the professor said, and his crystal body turned bright yellow, which meant he was very amused now. So you think it was just a coincidence that the mighty Vorthak Empire fell apart right after they fought with the supposedly weak humans? Has to be, Mora 6 insisted. Everyone knows humans are pacifists. They do not even have a real military, just some small ships for exploration and defense. The other students nodded and made their various sounds of agreement. To them, it was obvious that humans were not warriors. They had seen human diplomats at Federation meetings, and they were always talking about peace and cooperation. Human traders were polite and fair in their business deals. Human explorers shared their discoveries with everyone instead of keeping them secret. Professor Keth Prime touched his control panel again. The holographic display changed to show 2 fleets of spaceships facing each other in the darkness of space. One fleet was large and powerful-looking, with ships covered in weapons and armor. The other fleet was much smaller and looked almost peaceful. This is a recording from the first meeting between humans and the Vorthak Empire, the professor explained. I want you to watch carefully and tell me what you see. The students leaned forward in their seats. They watched as the larger fleet, which belonged to the Vorthak, moved aggressively toward the smaller human ships. The human ships did not run away, but they also did not prepare for battle. See? Zix said excitedly. The humans are just sitting there. They are too scared to fight or too weak to run away properly. Keep watching, Professor Keth Prime said quietly. On the display, the students could see communication signals passing between the two fleets. The Vorthak ships were clearly making threats and demands. The human ships kept responding calmly, never raising their weapons or shields. This is painful to watch, Morasix said. The humans are being humiliated, and they are just taking it. The Vorthak commander must be laughing at them, added the tree-like student. Professor Keth Prime paused the recording. Now I want you to think about something. The Vorthak Empire had been conquering other races for over 300 years. They had never met anyone they could not defeat. Their military was the strongest in this part of the galaxy. Exactly, Zix said, which proves that humans could never stand against them. And yet, the professor continued, within 6 months of this first meeting, the entire Vorthak Empire was gone, not just defeated, but completely transformed. Today, the former Vorthak worlds are peaceful members of our Federation. They have given up warfare entirely and spend their time on science, art, and trade. The students were quiet now. This was confusing to them. How could the weakest race in the galaxy somehow cause the strongest warrior empire to disappear? Maybe the humans hired other races to fight for them, suggested Quindelta. Or maybe they used some kind of weapon that made the Vorthak sick, said Morasix. Or perhaps, Professor Keth Prime said, his crystal body now turning a deep purple color. You do not understand humans as well as you think you do. He walked back to his desk and picked up a data pad. I have here the complete military records from the human-Vorthak conflict. Every message, every battle report, every diplomatic exchange. By the time we finish studying this case, you will understand something very important about the nature of true strength. What do you mean? Zix asked. You will learn that there is a big difference between being unable to fight and choosing not to fight. You will discover that sometimes the strongest warriors are those who never draw their weapons at all. The students looked at each other with confusion. How could someone be strong without fighting? How could you win without using weapons? These ideas did not make sense to races that had grown up believing that power came from the ability to destroy your enemies. Now, Professor Keth Prime said, let us begin with the first contact between Captain Jake Miller and Commander Thakmor of the Vorthak Empire. Pay close attention to every word they say to each other. Notice not just what happens, but what does not happen. The holographic display came back to life, and the students watched as a human face appeared on screen. Captain Miller looked calm and friendly, even though he was facing an enemy fleet that could destroy his ship in seconds. Greetings, Captain Miller said in the recording. I am Captain Jake Miller of the Earth vessel Liberty. We come in peace, and hope to establish friendly relations with your people. The response from the Vorthak commander was immediate and harsh. Weak humans! You dare enter our territory? Surrender now or be destroyed. But Captain Miller just smiled and said, We understand this is your space, Commander. We did not come to invade or threaten anyone. We simply hoped we could talk and perhaps find ways our peoples could help each other. Zix made a disgusted clicking sound. See how he begs? This is embarrassing. But Professor Keth Prime held up one crystal hand for silence. Watch more carefully, young one. Notice that Captain Miller is not begging. He's not afraid. He is making a choice. As the recording continued, the students began to see something they had not noticed before. Captain Miller never lost his calm demeanor, even when the Vorthak commander screamed threats and insults. He never backed down from his mission of peace, but he also never responded to the aggression with aggression of his own. Tomorrow, Professor Keth Prime said as the class period ended, We will see what happened when the Vorthak decided to test human resolve with violence, and you will begin to understand why the humans responded the way they did. The students left the classroom confused and curious. Everything they thought they knew about strength and weakness was being challenged. Maybe there was more to humans than they had realized. Captain Jake Miller stood on the bridge of his ship, the UES Liberty. He was a tall man with gray hair and kind eyes. He had been a diplomat for 20 years, and he had never failed to make peace with anyone he met. But today felt different. Today felt dangerous. Through the main screen, he could see the Vorthak fleet waiting for them. 30 massive warships floated in the darkness of space. Each ship was 3 times bigger than the Liberty. Their hulls were black metal covered with spikes and weapon ports. They looked like giant monsters made of steel and hate. "Captain," said Lisa Park from her station. She was the communications officer, a young woman with short black hair and a nervous voice. "The Vorthak commander is sending us another message. He sounds very angry." Jake nodded. "Put him on screen, Lisa." The face that appeared on the main display was frightening. Commander Thakmor of the Vorthak Empire had green scaly skin and yellow eyes that burned with fury. His mouth was full of sharp teeth, and when he spoke, his voice was like the growl of a wild animal. "Human ship." Thakmor roared. "You have been in our space for 6 hours. This is 6 hours too long. Surrender your vessel now or we will take it by force." Jake stepped forward and spoke calmly. "Commander Thakmor, I am Captain Jake Miller. We are here on a mission of peace. We want to establish diplomatic relations between our peoples." The Vorthak commander laughed, but it was not a happy sound. It was cold and cruel. "Peace? Diplomacy? These are words for the weak. The Vorthak Empire takes what it wants and destroys what it cannot take. We have conquered 47 star systems. We have defeated every enemy we have ever faced." "That is very impressive," Jake said politely. "Your people must be great warriors, but surely even great warriors can benefit from friendship and trade with other peoples." Behind Jake, his crew watched in amazement. Ben Rodriguez, the tactical officer, whispered to Lisa Park, "How can the captain stay so calm? Those ships could vaporize us in seconds." Lisa whispered back, "Captain Miller has been doing this for 20 years. He has made peace with pirates, rebels, and even the Stellar Confederacy. He knows what he is doing." But Amy Foster, the young science officer, was not so sure. She had joined the Liberty only 6 months ago, fresh from the academy. This was her first real diplomatic mission, and she was terrified. The Vorthak were known throughout the galaxy as ruthless killers who showed no mercy to anyone. On the screen, Commander Thakmor was getting more aggressive. "You speak of friendship, human, but I see only weakness. Your ship has no heavy weapons. Your crew is small. You could not fight us even if you wanted to." "You are correct," Jake admitted. "The Liberty is a diplomatic vessel. We are not here to fight anyone. We are here to talk and hopefully find common ground between our peoples." "Common ground?" Thakmor snarled. "The only common ground between the Vorthak and lesser species is the ground where we bury our enemies." Jake did not react to the threat. Instead, he smiled and said, "Commander, I understand that your people value strength above all else. But consider this. Is it not a sign of strength when a leader can achieve his goals without violence? Is it not powerful to turn enemies into allies?" This seemed to confuse the Vorthak commander for a moment. His people had always believed that strength came from the ability to destroy others. The idea that strength could come from creating alliances was foreign to him. "You speak in riddles, human," Thakmor said. "The strong rule, and the weak serve. This is the way of the universe." "Perhaps," Jake replied. "But what if there was a different way? What if 2 strong peoples could work together and become even stronger?" Amy Foster watched this exchange with growing worry. She turned to Ben Rodriguez and whispered, "Should we raise shields? Charge weapons? Do something?" Ben shook his head. "Captain's orders are clear. We maintain peaceful posture no matter what they do. But what if they attack us? Then we trust. The captain knows what he is doing." On the screen, Commander Thakmor was growing impatient. Enough talk, you will surrender your ship now or we will take it by force. Choose quickly, human. Jake looked around at his crew. They were all watching him, waiting to see what he would do. Lisa Park's hands were shaking as she worked at her console. Ben Rodriguez had his finger near the shield controls, ready to act, if the captain gave the word. Amy Foster was running silent scans of the Vorthak fleet, trying to find any weakness they could use if fighting became necessary. Commander, Jake said finally, we will not surrender our ship. But we will also not fight you. We are here in peace, and in peace we will remain. Thakmore's yellow eyes blazed with anger. Then you will die in peace. All ships prepare to fire. The 30 Vorthak warships began to move into attack formation. Their weapons started to glow with deadly energy. On the Liberty's bridge, warning, alarms began to sound. Captain, Lisa Park called out. They're targeting our engines and life support. They want to disable us, not destroy us. Interesting, Jake said thoughtfully. They could have destroyed us instantly, but they are choosing to capture us instead. That tells us something important about their intentions. What does it tell us? Amy Foster asked. It tells us they are curious about us. If they only wanted us dead, we would be dead already. The fact that they want to capture us means they want information. And if they want information, that means they can be reasoned with. Ben Rodriguez looked at his captain with amazement. Even facing 30 enemy warships, Jake Miller was still thinking like a diplomat, still looking for ways to make peace. Captain, Ben said quietly, what are your orders? Jake was quiet for a long moment, thinking carefully. Finally, he spoke. Maintain current position, do not raise shields, do not charge weapons, continue sending peaceful signals. Sir, Amy Foster said, are you sure about this? They are about to fire on us. Jake turned to look at his young science officer. Amy, do you trust me? Yes, sir, but then trust me now. Sometimes the best way to show strength is to show that you are not afraid. We came here to make peace, and that is what we are going to do. The Vorthak weapons were fully charged now. Any second they would fire, and the Liberty would be helpless to defend itself. But Jake Miller stood calmly on his bridge, his hands clasped behind his back, waiting. Final warning, human, Commander Thakmore roared. Surrender or be destroyed. Jake stepped closer to the screen. Commander, I have a question for you. In all your conquests, in all your victories, have you ever met an enemy who refused to fight you? This question seemed to surprise Thakmore. What kind of enemy does not fight? The kind that has nothing to fear from you, Jake replied. The kind that knows something you do not know. What could you possibly know that we do not? Jake smiled. We know that every war ends with someone choosing peace. We are simply choosing peace from the beginning. The Vorthak commander stared at the human captain for a long moment. This was not how enemies were supposed to behave. Enemies were supposed to threaten and fight and try to destroy each other. They were not supposed to stand calmly and speak of peace while facing certain death. You are either very brave or very stupid, human, Thakmore said finally. Perhaps both, Jake admitted. But we are here, and we are not leaving until we have accomplished our mission. And what is your mission? To prove that humans and Vorthak can be friends instead of enemies. To show that there is a better way than constant warfare. To offer you something more valuable than conquest. Nothing is more valuable than conquest. Knowledge is. Friendship is. Peace is. Commander Thakmore was silent for a long time. Finally, he said, You have one day, human, one day to convince me that your words have meaning. If you fail, we will take your ship and your crew will become slaves of the Empire. The communication ended and the screen went dark. Jake's crew looked at him with a mixture of admiration and terror. Captain, Lisa Park said, what do we do now? Jake sat down in his command chair and smiled. Now we do what we came here to do, we make peace. 3 weeks had passed since Captain Jake Miller's first meeting with the Vorthak Empire. The talks had not gone well. Every day Commander Thakmore made new demands. Every day Captain Miller tried to find peaceful solutions. But the Vorthak were not interested in peace. Admiral Kate Morrison sat in her office aboard the UES Defender, reading the latest reports from the border worlds. The news was getting worse every day. The Vorthak had grown tired of talking. Now they were taking action. Colonel Rick Barnes knocked on her door and entered. He was a big man with a serious face and gray hair. He had been a soldier for 30 years, and he understood war better than most people. "Admiral," he said, placing a data pad on her desk. "The attack on Research Station Harmony 7 is confirmed. All 847 civilians are dead. The Vorthak destroyed everything." Kate picked up the data pad and read the report. Her face grew dark with anger. Harmony 7 had been a peaceful research station where scientists studied plant life from different worlds. The people there had no weapons and no military training. They were just ordinary people trying to make the galaxy a better place. "How did it happen?" Kate asked. "The Vorthak fleet appeared without warning," Rick explained. "The station sent a surrender message immediately. They offered no resistance at all, but the Vorthak destroyed them anyway." Kate stood up and walked to the window. Outside she could see the stars and the peaceful ships of the human fleet. But that peace was being threatened by an enemy that seemed to enjoy killing innocent people. "What are the families saying?" she asked. "They want revenge," Rick said, quietly. "The media is calling for immediate military action. Some of the other admirals are asking why we have not struck back yet." Kate turned around to face her old friend. "And what do you think, Rick? Should we attack them?" Rick was quiet for a moment. He had served with Kate for 15 years, and he knew she was not just asking for his military opinion. She was asking for his honest thoughts. "Admiral," he said finally, "I have seen what happens when good people are pushed too far. Those 847 civilians had families. They had children. Their deaths cannot go unanswered." "But what kind of answer should we give?" Kate asked. "If we attack the Vorthak, how many more people will die? How many human soldiers will never come home? How many Vorthak civilians will be killed in the crossfire?" "With respect, ma'am," Rick said, "the Vorthak don't seem to care about their own civilians. They only understand strength." Kate sat back down at her desk and looked at the star charts on her wall. The Vorthak Empire controlled 47 star systems. They had a population of over 12 billion people. Their military was huge and well-trained. A war with them would not be quick or easy. "Captain Miller is returning to Vorthak space tomorrow," she said. "He is bringing a larger diplomatic team and better offers." Rick could not hide his surprise. "Ma'am, after what they did to Harmony 7, we are still trying to make peace? We are offering them trade agreements, technology sharing, and even some of our outer colonies if they want them," Kate explained. "We are trying everything we can to avoid a war." "Admiral, what if they see this as weakness? What if they think we are afraid of them?" Kate looked at her old friend with sad eyes. "Rick, do you remember the War of the Stellar Confederacy, 20 years ago?" "Of course, I was there." "How long did that war last?" 8 years. "And how many people died?" Rick was quiet. He remembered those dark years very well. Over 3 million on both sides. And in the end, what did we accomplish? We made peace. The Confederacy became our allies." "Exactly," Kate said. "We spent 8 years and 3 million lives to reach the same result we could have reached on day 1 if we had tried harder to understand each other." Rick nodded, but he still looked troubled. "Ma'am, I understand what you are saying, but the Vorthak are different. They are not like the Confederacy. They seem to enjoy killing." "Maybe," Kate admitted. "But what if they are not as different as we think? What if they are just afraid of us? What if they attack because they think we are a threat to them?" Before Rick could answer, the communication system beeped. A young officer appeared on the screen. "Admiral Morrison," the officer said. "We are receiving an emergency transmission from Captain Miller's diplomatic mission." "Put him through," Kate ordered. Captain Miller's face appeared on the screen. He looked tired and worried. Behind him, Kate could see the bridge of the UES Liberty. "Admiral," Jake said, "I need to report a change in the situation. Commander Thakmore has just informed me that the Vorthak Grand Fleet is moving toward Earth." Kate felt her blood turn cold. "What do you mean, moving toward Earth?" 1,200 Vorthak warships have left their home systems, Jake explained. They are heading directly for our solar system. Thakmore says they plan to destroy Earth and claim all human space for their empire. Rick Barnes stepped forward. Captain, what provoked this escalation? Jake looked even more tired. They said our continued diplomatic efforts prove that humans are too weak to deserve existence. They believe that any species that chooses talking over fighting is not worthy of life. Kate was quiet for a long moment, thinking hard. Finally, she asked, Captain, what is your assessment? Is there any chance of stopping this peacefully? I don't think so, Admiral, Jake replied sadly. I have offered them everything we discussed. Technology, resources, territory, trade agreements. They rejected it all. Thakmore said that the only thing they want from us is our complete destruction. Kate stood up and walked to her window again. She could see the civilian ships in the harbor, full of families and children who had no idea that an enemy fleet was coming to kill them all. Captain Miller, she said, you and your crew have done everything possible. You have shown patience, wisdom, and courage. No one could have done better. Thank you, Admiral. What are your orders? Kate was quiet for a long time. Rick Barnes watched her face, knowing that she was making one of the hardest decisions of her life. Captain, she said finally, withdraw to a safe distance. Your diplomatic mission is complete. Understood, Admiral. And after that? Kate turned to look at Rick Barnes. Her old friend nodded once, understanding what she was thinking. After that, Captain, we do what we must do to protect our people. The communication ended, and the room was silent. Rick Barnes had known Kate Morrison for many years. He had seen her make difficult decisions before, but he had never seen her look as sad as she did right now. Admiral, he said quietly, are you giving the order? Kate sat down at her desk and pulled up the military communication system. Her fingers moved slowly over the controls, as if each button was very heavy. Send a message to all fleet commanders, she said. Code Alpha 7. Rick's eyes widened. Code Alpha 7 was the signal to prepare for total war. Ma'am, are you sure? Kate looked at him with tired eyes. Rick, we tried everything. We offered them friendship, trade, even our own territory. We showed them mercy and patience. We gave them every chance to choose peace. And they chose war. Yes, they chose war. And now we must choose how to respond. Kate finished typing the message and paused with her finger over the send button. Once she pressed it, there would be no going back. The largest military fleet in human history would begin moving toward Vorthak space. Admiral, Rick said softly, the families of those 847 civilians deserve justice. Yes, they do, Kate agreed. But Rick, this is not about justice. This is about survival. The Vorthak have made it clear that they will not stop until every human is dead. We cannot let that happen. She pressed the button, and the message was sent. All across human space, military commanders received the same order. Prepare for war against the Vorthak Empire. But Kate Morrison had one more message to send. This one was different. This one would go to places that most people did not know existed. Rick, she said, please leave me alone for a few minutes. I need to make some calls. Rick nodded and left the room. He knew that Admiral Morrison had secrets, things that even he was not allowed to know. All high-ranking military officers had such secrets. When she was alone, Kate opened a different communication system. This one was hidden behind multiple security codes and encryption systems. She typed a message that was only 3 words long. Release. The fleet. Then she sat back in her chair and waited. The Vorthak Empire thought they knew everything about human military capability. They thought they had seen everything humans could do. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Captain Jake Miller sat on the bridge of the UES Liberty, watching the empty space around his ship. He had been ordered to withdraw to a safe distance, but he could not bring himself to leave completely. Somewhere out there, the largest Vorthak fleet in history was heading toward Earth. Somewhere out there, his people were preparing for the worst war they had ever faced. Captain, said Amy Foster from her science station, I am detecting some strange energy readings. Something is happening to space itself around us. Jake looked at his young science officer with concern. What kind of energy readings? I have never seen anything like this before, Amy replied, checking her instruments again. It is like space is bending or folding somehow. Before Jake could respond, Lisa Park called out from the communication station. Captain, I am receiving a priority message from Admiral Morrison. Put her through, Jake ordered. Admiral Morrison's face appeared on the main screen, but she looked different than she had a few hours ago. Before, she had seemed tired and sad. Now she looked calm and determined. Captain Miller, she said, I want to thank you and your crew for everything you have done. You gave peace every possible chance. What happens next is not your fault. Admiral, Jake said, what do you mean, what happens next? You will see very soon. Please move your ship to coordinates 247 Alpha. You will be safe there and you will have a good view of what we have been hiding from the galaxy. Jake felt confused. Hiding, ma'am? Captain, the human race learned a long time ago that the best way to keep peace is to be prepared for war. We have been preparing for a very long time. The communication ended, and Jake ordered his crew to move to the coordinates Admiral Morrison had given them. As they traveled through space, Amy Foster kept reporting more and more strange energy readings. Captain, she said, whatever is happening out there, it is getting stronger. Space itself seems to be changing. Suddenly, Lieutenant Ben Rodriguez called out from the tactical station. Captain, you need to see this. Something is appearing on our sensors. Jake looked at the main screen and his mouth fell open in shock. Ships were appearing out of nowhere. Not just a few ships, but hundreds of them, then thousands. They seemed to be coming out of hidden places in space itself. How is this possible? Amy Foster whispered. The ships were like nothing Jake had ever seen before. They were sleek and beautiful, but also clearly very powerful. Each one was larger than anything in the current human fleet. And they just kept appearing, more and more of them, until the entire area of space was filled with human warships. My God, Jake said quietly. How many are there? Ben Rodriguez was working frantically at his station, trying to count them all. Captain, I am reading over 15,000 ships. No, wait, more are still appearing. 20,000, 25,000. That is impossible, Lisa Park said. The entire human fleet only has about 2,000 ships. Not anymore, Jake said, understanding beginning to dawn on him. This is what we have really been building all these years. On the main screen, a new face appeared. It was Admiral Morrison again, but now she was standing on the bridge of a ship that Jake did not recognize. It was huge and beautiful, with technology that seemed far beyond anything he had seen before. Captain Miller, Admiral Morrison said, welcome to the real human fleet. What you are seeing is the result of 50 years of secret construction and development. Every ship you see has been built in hidden shipyards and protected by technology that makes them invisible to all known sensors. Jake could only stare in amazement. Admiral, why was this kept secret? Because, Captain, we hoped we would never need to use them. We built this fleet as insurance, a last resort to protect our people if diplomacy failed. We have spent decades trying to avoid this moment. As Jake watched, more and more ships continued to appear. There were battleships the size of small cities, carriers that could hold thousands of fighters, and vessels of designs he could not even identify. How many ships are there total? Jake asked. 32,417. Admiral Morrison replied. This represents about 12% of our total military capability. 12%? Amy Foster gasped. You mean there are more? Much more. But we hope this will be enough to end the conflict quickly and with as little bloodshed as possible. At that moment, the Vorthok Grand Fleet appeared on the edge of the system. 1,200 massive warships, the pride of the Vorthok Empire. They had come to destroy Earth and claim human space for themselves. Commander Thakmore's voice boomed across the communication channels. Humans, we have come to destroy your pathetic race and take your worlds. Where is your fleet? Are you going? To hide behind your diplomats until the end? Admiral Morrison responded calmly. Commander Thakmore, I am Admiral Kate Morrison of the Human Defense Fleet. You have threatened our homeworld and killed our civilians. We gave you every opportunity to choose peace. Peace is for the weak, Thakmor roared. We see only a few, 1,000 ships. Our fleet will crush you easily. Commander, Admiral Morrison said sadly, you are not seeing our fleet. You are seeing only the ships we want you to see. Suddenly, the space around the Vorthak fleet began to shimmer. More human ships appeared, thousands of them, surrounding the Vorthak from all sides. The enemy fleet, which had seemed so large and powerful, was now completely outnumbered. Impossible, Thakmor screamed. Where did they come from? How many ships do you have? Enough, Admiral Morrison replied simply. Commander, I am going to give you one final chance. Surrender now, and your people will be treated with mercy. Continue to fight, and we will do what we must to protect our own. Thakmor's response was immediate. Vorthak warriors never surrender. All ships attack. The Vorthak fleet opened fire, with everything they had. Thousands of energy beams and missiles streaked toward the human ships. It was the largest single attack in galactic history, but something amazing happened. The human ships did not just defend themselves, they seemed to absorb the attack completely. Their shields shimmered with energy, but none of the ships were damaged. Our weapons are doing nothing, a Vorthak officer screamed over the communication channel. Admiral Morrison's voice was calm and sad. Commander Thakmor, your weapons cannot penetrate our defensive systems. Please surrender before this goes any further. But the Vorthak commander was too proud and too angry to give up. If we cannot pierce your shields, we will ram your ships, all vessels ramming speed. The human response was swift and precise. Beams of blue energy reached out from the human ships and touched each Vorthak vessel. Immediately, the enemy ships stopped moving. Their engines went dark. Their weapons powered down. What have you done to us? Thakmor demanded. We have disabled your ships without harming your crews, Admiral Morrison explained. Your people are all alive and uninjured. Your ships can be repaired, but your ability to make war is over. In less than 6 hours, the entire Vorthak Grand Fleet was captured or disabled. Not a single human ship was damaged. Not a single human life was lost. The most powerful military force in that part of the galaxy had been defeated so completely that it seemed almost impossible. Commander Thakmor found himself transported to Admiral Morrison's flagship. He stood before her expecting to be executed as he would have done to a defeated enemy. Well, he snarled, will you torture me before you kill me? Show me your human cruelty? Admiral Morrison looked at him with something that might have been pity. Commander, you are going home. All of your people are going home. We are going to help you rebuild your ships, but they will be equipped for exploration and trade, not war. I do not understand, Thakmor said, confused. We attacked you. We killed your people. We threatened your world. Yes, you did, Admiral Morrison agreed. And now we are going to show you a different way to live. Not because you deserve it, but because mercy is stronger than revenge. But why? Why show mercy to your enemies? Admiral Morrison was quiet for a moment, looking out at the stars. Because, Commander, we learned long ago that the greatest victory is not defeating your enemies. The greatest victory is turning your enemies into friends. Thakmor stared at her in amazement. His people had spent their entire history believing that strength came from the ability to destroy others. But here were the humans, showing that true strength came from the choice to create rather than destroy. What will happen to the Vorthak Empire? He asked. The Vorthak Empire will become something new, Admiral Morrison replied. Something better, and we will help you build it. Back in the classroom at the Galactic Military Academy, the students sat in complete silence. The holographic display showed the final moments of the Vorthak War, with human ships helping to repair the damaged Vorthak vessels and transport their crews safely home. Professor Keth Prime's crystal body had turned a deep silver color, which meant he was thinking very serious thoughts. The students had been watching the recordings for 3 hours now, and many of them looked confused and troubled. Zix 4471, the young Krillian student who had been so sure about human weakness, was the first to speak. His shell had changed from its usual bright green to a dull brown color. "Professor," he said quietly, "I do not understand what I just saw. If humans had such powerful ships, why did they hide them? Why did they let the Vorthak attack their people?" "That is an excellent question, young Zix," Professor Keth Prime replied. "What do you think the answer might be?" Zix was quiet for a moment, his shell slowly changing colors as he thought. Maybe they were afraid that other races would fear them if they knew how strong they really were? Another student, Mora 6 from the Rigel system, raised one of her forearms. "But Professor, this makes humans seem very dangerous. If they can hide such a large fleet, what else might they be hiding? How can we trust them?" Before the professor could answer, a student from the back of the room spoke up. This was Vex Prime, a young Centaurian whose people had been enemies with humans many years ago. "I think I understand," Vex Prime said slowly. "My grandfather fought against humans in the border wars 30 years ago. He always told me that humans were the strangest enemies he ever faced." "How so?" asked Professor Keth Prime. "My grandfather said that humans would defeat his fleet, capture his ships, and then help repair them before sending his crews home. He said they would win battles and then immediately start trying to make friends with the people they had just defeated." The professor's crystal body brightened. "Your grandfather was a wise observer, Vex Prime. And what did he think of this behavior?" "At first he thought it was a trick. He thought humans were trying to make his people weak by being kind to them, but later he realized something else." "What did he realize?" "He realized that humans were not trying to make anyone weak. They were trying to make everyone strong. They wanted to turn the whole galaxy into friends instead of enemies." Zix 4471's shell was now turning a pale blue color, which showed he was starting to understand something new. "Professor, are you saying that humans avoid war not because they are weak, but because they are so strong that they do not need to prove it? What do you think, Zix?" The young Krillian was quiet for a long time. Finally, he said, "I think humans understand something that the rest of us do not. They know that the strongest person is not the one who can defeat everyone else. The strongest person is the one who can make everyone else stronger too." Professor Keth Prime's body turned bright gold, which was the color of great joy among his people. "Excellent, Zix, you are beginning to understand." Mora 6 looked confused. "But Professor, if humans are so powerful, why do they work so hard to help other races? Why do they share their technology and resources with people who used to be their enemies?" "That is another excellent question. Who would like to try answering it?" A student near the front raised a tentacle. This was Quinn Delta from the water world of Aquanus. "Maybe humans learned something from their own history. Maybe they had wars on their own planet and learned how terrible war can be." "That is part of it," the professor agreed. "Human history is full of wars between their own people. They know better than most races what happens when fighting goes on too long." "What happens?" asked a small student from the outer rim. "Everyone loses," the professor said simply. "In a long war, even the winners lose so much that victory becomes meaningless. Humans learned this lesson very well." Zix 4471 stood up slowly. His shell was now a deep blue color, which showed great respect among his people. "Professor, I need to say something. When I came to this class, I thought humans were cowards. I thought they were weak and pathetic. I was wrong. It takes courage to admit when we are wrong, Zix. But I was not just wrong about humans being weak," Zix continued. "I was wrong about what strength really means. I thought strength meant being able to destroy your enemies. But humans have taught me that real strength means being able to forgive your enemies and help them become better." The other students began to murmur agreement. Many of them were changing colors or making sounds that showed they were having new thoughts about humans and about strength itself. Professor Keth Prime walked to the front of the classroom and looked at each of his students. "Class, what you have learned today is one of the most important lessons in all of galactic history. For thousands of years, races across the galaxy have believed that power comes from the ability to destroy others. But humans have shown us something different." "What have they shown us?" asked Mora 6. "They have shown us that the greatest power comes from the choice not to use your strength to hurt others. They have shown us that mercy is not weakness. but the highest form of strength. A student from the back called out, "But Professor, what about races that refuse to learn? What about people who only understand violence?" "Ah," the professor said, his crystal body turning purple with amusement again. "You mean like the Vorthak?" "Yes, exactly. Well, let me show you something else." The professor touched his control panel and the holographic display changed to show current images of former Vorthak space. The students gasped in amazement. Where once there had been military bases and weapon factories, now there were cities full of art and learning. Where once there had been warships, now there were exploration vessels and trade ships. The former Vorthak worlds looked peaceful and prosperous. "This is Vorthak space today," Professor Keth Prime explained. 25 years after their war with humans ended, the Vorthak have become one of the most peaceful and productive civilizations in the galaxy. They are now some of humanity's closest allies. "How is this possible?" Zix4471 asked in amazement. "Because humans did not just defeat the Vorthak, they helped them become something better than they were before. Instead of punishing them for their aggression, humans showed them how to use their strength for creation, instead of destruction." The classroom was quiet for a long time as the students thought about this. Finally, a small voice from the back asked, "Professor, do you think other races could learn to be like humans?" Professor Keth Prime's entire body began to glow with soft, warm light. "Young one, that is exactly what humans are hoping for. They are not trying to conquer the galaxy or rule over other races. They are trying to teach everyone that there is a better way to live." "What way is that?" "The way of mercy. The way of turning enemies into friends. The way of using your strength to protect others instead of to hurt them." Zix4471 raised his hand. "Professor, I have one more question." "Yes, Zix. If humans are so powerful and so wise, why do they still let other races think they are weak? Why do they not tell everyone about their real capabilities?" Professor Keth Prime smiled, even though his crystal face could not show expressions the way other races could. "Because, young Zix, humans understand that being feared is not the same as being respected. They would rather have the galaxy think they are weak and know they are kind, than have the galaxy know they are strong and fear they are cruel." As the class ended and the students began to leave, they were all talking quietly among themselves. Many of them were making plans to learn more about human culture and philosophy. Some were even talking about visiting Earth or human colonies to see for themselves how these strange, powerful, merciful people lived. Zix4471 was the last to leave. He approached Professor Keth Prime's desk and stood there for a moment, his shell slowly changing colors. "Professor," he said finally, "I think I owe every human in the galaxy an apology." "Why is that, young one?" "Because I judged them without understanding them. I thought their kindness was weakness when it was actually the strongest thing of all." Professor Keth Prime's body glowed warmly. "Zix, you have learned the most important lesson any military officer can learn. True strength is not about how much damage you can do. True strength is about how much good you can create." As Zix4471 left the classroom, he was already planning to change his specialty from conquest strategy to diplomatic relations. He wanted to learn how to be strong the way humans were strong. He wanted to learn how to turn enemies into friends. And across the galaxy, in classrooms and meeting halls and government buildings, other young people were learning the same lesson. The human way of strength through mercy was spreading, one mind at a time, making the galaxy a little more peaceful with each passing day.